that'll help us get it in the right direction.
All right.
Way earlier, we've been here for a long time.
So we'll wait to hear back on that. And then,
Moving now.
yeah, I should, right now, everybody wants to do it.
We're not gonna get it done started.
They want to.
Fine, we'll go
Yeah.
on.
But we have no preference.
I'll play ball with anybody. You know, it don't matter to me either. Don't take it the wrong way. It's one less thing I've gotta run through. It's a win-win. But I'll do it, I don't care.
When we dedicate a regulation, we'll compile it.
Yes.
Did you have one?
I don't know that I do, but it should be in the township. The township should
Yeah,
have.
but I don't think it's been big since 2010.
Let me see. You know what I mean, he's got archive files.
I just felt like.
Yep. Same who, Craig's not in back. I think because Craig's the guy.
One of my friends just asked me.
That's what it would be.
Well, that's on a different substation than.
Well, that's where the line's down.
Well, yeah, we're,
And Mounts Road. It's probably Mounts Road.
she says, it was out, okay, so. Yeah.
Well, engineers know
And
that,
there's
so
a
it must be.
line down on Mounts Road. That causes a brush fire over there too.
Are you seeing things slow?
But this, it's hard to say, this is just the time. Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That's big.
They said you're slow.
Interesting.
My table switched again?
They kind of moderate.
We're trying to confuse you.
That's easily done. Evening, Ellen.
Good evening, how are you?
Thanks for coming by.
My pleasure.
You got demoted back down next to the engineer.
You drew the short straw, you have to sit next to me.
It's actually really work.
It's really bad now.
Chief,
All right.
I don't know if it's his time, whatever my word brings him.
Oh. Well, that worked.
you know a guy in Upper Pottsville named Zosky?
Not off my head now.
I encountered him the other day, he's a good guy.
Is, what's his rank?
I'm not sure, I dealt with him in a juvenile case, he was,
Okay. His name rings a bell, and I'm thinking I went to a leadership course, and that's why I was wondering what his rank was, because I think he might have been in that.
I can find out,
Yeah.
cause I'll be in touch with him again. But, yeah, it was a pleasure to do with him.
Good.
Now, Jill Scheit returns your greetings.
What's that?
He said Jill Scheit returns your greetings.
Did you talk to her?
Yeah. She's getting prepared. A lot of work to do.
So we're gonna do two ordinances.
Okay,
We're gonna do the zoning first, and then we'll do a regular I just handed.
Almost looks like we didn't pay any bills all year.
There's just a handful.
Yeah, something like, oh, it's more than that, some of them. Look at this.
Yeah, that was
End of the year. That's why I said, when you start doing the budget, like August, September, I said, don't let them know you get close to Thanksgiving. There's something that comes in. How are you?
Good, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Good.
You should sign in, yes. Yeah, you should. Well, the way it goes is if you want to make any public comment, you have to be signed in.
Well, I'm public, I'm regardless. Okay. Well, nobody's gonna be saying anything, it's only 3 people here.
I didn't have a chance to quiet today, I'm pretty sure.
Section 705. I looked at section 705.
Right.
Which was what the red letter, is that what we were talking about?
No, no,
Oh,
no,
the other one, okay.
no, I have to get back to you.
I looked at one that might apply based on the creation of records,
Yes,
which I would not have to, that's section 705, so.
that's,
Because I'm
that's
actually creating,
usually how we can deny.
correct, because I'm creating something out of something else,
And
which
you
you
don't-
don't already track and create.
That's right, you can take an existing, and it can be electronic. But, yeah, if we have to compile or assemble or change, we can deny.
Okay, that's what we'd be, all right.
But what there is, the substance of what they're asking for is,
Legitimate,
yeah, and we can't charge for,
okay, that's,
we cannot.
got it.
They've been trying to amend that since the right to know law was changed in '09, they've been trying to
Yes.
get that amended, and so far, they have not been able to do so. So you can't do that. I was gonna ask you, I think our ordinance is, I think it's gonna be '02 and '03, because sometime ago, I think the only, when we adopted was a stormwater ordinance. But I didn't get a chance to call you to double
Okay.
check.
I'll check it. And that's for the, and that's for the two that are on the agenda, so. Gene, that's for the nuisance solicitation.
No, this is for the zoning
Oh,
ordinance
the zonings.
and the short-term rental
Short-term
regulatory.
rental, that's right. Got those two.
1900.
Alright, we'll call the Robeson Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order at 7 o'clock. We're going to pledge allegiance and moment of silence for all military personnel. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Alright, we'll do a quick roll call. Steve.
Yes.
Here.
We will turn the meeting over to our solicitor, Orlando.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. This is the public hearing first for the zoning amendments. Our first order of business is authentication of the board exhibits. Board Exhibit B1 is proof of publication of notice of this public hearing, which was advertised in the Reading Eagle on October the 23rd and October the 30th. Board Exhibit B2 is a transmittal letter from my office to the Berks County Law Library dated October 16th, evidencing the fact that an attested copy of the ordinance was forwarded to the Law Library. Board Exhibit B3 is the proposed ordinance that contains the stamp of the Berks County Law Library, evidencing the fact that they received the attested copy on October 18th. Board Exhibit B4 is the transmittal letter from my office to the Reading Eagle Company, evidencing the fact that the full text of the ordinance was forwarded to the newspaper. Board Exhibit B5 is the transmittal letter from my office, evidencing the fact that the attested copy of the ordinance was forwarded to the Berks County Planning Commission for their review. Board Exhibit B6 is the comment from the Berks County Planning Commission, which I will have more to say about in a few minutes. Before I make any further public comment, this is the time for members of the public, if you wish to provide testimony or make any statements with regard to the board's consideration of these zoning amendments, now would be the opportunity for you to do so. Is there any member of the public that wishes to make any comment or provide any testimony with regard to these zoning amendments? Let the record reflect that no one is indicating any right to do so. Do any of the board members wish to do so before I make any further comments? Let the record reflect that the board is not indicating any desire to do so. There were, for a considerable period of time, a number of comments and concerns which were led to this zoning amendment to make formal in our zoning ordinance a short-term rental as a discrete use. And that was the primary purpose of the ordinance amendment, and to provide for it in specific districts. The Berks County Planning Commission sent an initial review November the 1st, and they were not able to really review the draft of the ordinance that is actually under consideration, because we discovered that they did not have the latest Robeson Township zoning ordinance. That was rectified by our manager, and we were able to obtain from the Planning Commission a revised letter, which is B6, that I noted here, and that will be part of our record. And the Planning Commission identified a number of reference errors which they recommend that we change. And I want to go over those. I believe we can do this without re-advertising, because the errors that were noted, you know, so many people proofread this, I did it a couple of times, but there are the references, for instance, one of the references says that the tourist doesn't apply, but it's actually defined as part of. And another one, there was a reference to rooming houses under the short-term rental regulatory portions. It was things like that that need to be changed. I want to hit them when the board, and I think the board saw the letter from the Planning Commission, but it's items 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 of the Planning Commission November 15 letter that have these suggested changes, and I'm just going to hit them quickly. Under the bed and breakfast revised regulations for 612A, we refer to tourist, and we had changed the definition of tourist to short-term rental, so it shouldn't be there. So that should be deleted as she suggested, and that's in two places. She recommended that also in the regulations, and this, by the way, this third comment, it was actually in our existing zoning ordinance, not in the draft. There were several of those that the planning commission recommended we adjust, and they were actually in our existing ordinance. For instance, this one was under bed and breakfast regulations where they talk about things that should be done. She said the word should be shall, and of course it should be. None of that is a substantive change. A third example, also in the existing ordinance, where we say that rooming houses and boarding houses are limited to 4 occupants in the definition, but in the regulation, it says 4 rental units and 5 occupants, and they should be consistent.
Excuse me, Gina, are you referring to the zoning ordinance in Robeson, correct?
I am.
Okay, and what sections were you just referring to?
612A was 612A was the first thing I commented on, Tim.
Okay.
612A2 was the second one, and the one I was just talking about is 612A12. I'm sorry, that was the one I was just talking about with 4 rentals or 5 rentals. That one is 612B5 about the rooming house. And then the last one, under the new regulations that we propose, 612C, number 11 mistakenly refers to rooming house, and it should say short-term rental. There were 2 places where that was noted. And then the last comment that she made was, we refer to the regulatory ordinance, which we're gonna have a hearing on here in a few minutes, as the regulatory ordinance here, but we then define it as a registration ordinance. None of those errors are of any substance. They do not change anything in the ordinance itself. What the second-class township code and the zoning ordinance, or the MPC says, that if an ordinance at the public hearing where it is substantially changed, or where additional land is included, or there are substantive changes made, the township should re-advertise and have another hearing before adoption. In my opinion, none of these are substantive changes. And I believe that they are all consistent with the planning commission comments and make the ordinance actually accurately refer rather than, so my recommendation is that we can adopt the ordinance with the changes that I just noted, without any re-advertisement. But of course, that's up to the board. If you prefer to re-advertise, we can certainly do that. But I do not believe that that would be necessary. I have sections of the ordinance here for the board to consider once we convene the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors. I'll ask last call for public comment in light of anything that I may have said. Seeing none, let me reflect that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Please stand up, state your full name, and be sworn.
Okay, I'm Ginny Moore, spelled M-O-H-R. I live down here at 1313 Old River Road.
Please be sworn.
Big Pond,
Spell Ginny.
Ginnny, it's Virginia, I'm sorry, my first name is Virginia, everybody knows me by
You have to
Ginny.
be sworn.
Please raise your right hand.
If I'm right,
Yeah.
you told me to.
Here, over here, look at me,
Okay,
this way. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
oh, yes,
Thank you.
okay.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, I just wanna know what this here is entailing. To me, you're talking and I don't understand it, okay? Now, what does this pertain to? Is we pertaining to like, his storage sheds where people only rent for, or is there something in this township that has a bed and breakfast that I'm unaware of? I mean, what is this entailing? What is the goal?
Well-
You know, I have rental homes, okay, here in this township. Now, does that include me?
I have no idea what you have or whether it includes you or not. What I can tell you is that this ordinance defines short-term rental as a discrete use based on the language in the ordinance, which has been advertised, as you see in the newspaper that you
Yeah, I
have,
it,
and it's been posted on the township building.
yeah.
So, I don't know your circumstances, ma'am, so it would not be proper or even possible for me to accurately comment on how it might apply to you. I can
Could you
only
please
refer
give-
you to the language of the ordinance.
Could you please give me an example of what you're saying? I mean, like somebody who has a business that rents a room out for a birthday party or a wedding reception like the fire company does, they'll rent out. This is what you're,
You have the newspaper there, did you read the
I
definition of
read it
short-term
3
rental?
times now, and I'm
Okay.
not a very smart person.
Well, neither am I, none of us are very, very smart, but I think all of us can read. So,
Yes,
what would you like me to try to help you with?
well, I was just asking you, you're saying, you're talking about bed and breakfasts, and I don't even know of a bed and breakfast in Robeson Township.
I don't,
Why would we want something?
you've had bed and breakfast definitions in your zoning ordinance in Robeson Township since the 1990s. So, that's not changing. Alright, the ordinance that you now have is not changing.
Okay,
What this ordinance does is it creates a term, short-term rental, it defines that term, and it regulates it and allows it in, different districts in the township. I can read the definition to you, but that would be,
would you be so kind, please, because maybe I overlooked it.
so, okay, on page 1 of the ordinance that you have there, short-term rental is defined as following: a dwelling unit or portion thereof that is offered or provided to a person or entity by a property owner or their agent for a fee in exchange for any non-monetary consideration for fewer than 30 consecutive nights. The term also includes tourist homes. Short-term rental units may be whole house rentals, apartments, condominiums, or individual rooms in homes. For purposes of administration and enforcement, the title, terms overnight rental, nightly rental, vacation rental are interchangeable with short-term rentals. The term does not include bed and breakfast, boarding house, or rooming house as defined in the ordinance. That's the definition.
Okay, so that would not, does not have anything to do with what we have.
I have no idea whether
No,
that's the
I'm
true
just-
rental.
Yeah, well, Howard knows.
Yeah, it shouldn't affect you.
It shouldn't affect us in any way.
Nope.
Okay, that's why I'm here, because, you know, sometimes I have somebody moving in and 2 weeks later they move out.
Yeah, but that's not what you're doing, you're doing a long-term rental.
That's what we do, long-term rentals. Okay,
Does that help you?
yes, it does. I just, you know, thought maybe I was missing something, because I'm not the brightest bulb in the pack.
Me neither.
Okay, and thank you very much.
Alright, is there any other public comment or concerns? Anything else from the board? Alright then, prior to the close of the record in this public hearing, I will announce to the public that the Board of Supervisors will immediately convene its regular monthly meeting at the close of this in the next public hearing, and the board does intend to take action on this ordinance and does intend to adopt it. So stay tuned and stick around if you need to do that. Otherwise, I believe that we've fulfilled our requirements for the public hearing, Mr. Chairman, and I would ask the board to consider entertaining a motion to adjourn this public hearing and convene the public hearing on the short-term rental registration ordinance.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn this meeting and, go into the meeting for the ordinance part of it.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call, Mr. Steve,
Yes.
Mr. Bitler,
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
So, we would then we're gonna open another public hearing. If the board adopts the short-term rental zoning amendments that we were just discussing, there are certain procedures and regulations that need to be implemented in order to properly administer it in the township. And that is the purpose of this public hearing, is to have a public hearing for the township's proposed short-term regular or short-term rental registration ordinance. The first order of business for this public hearing is to identify the board exhibits. B1 is proof of publication of notice of this public hearing, which is advertised in the Reading Eagle on October the 23rd. Board exhibit B2 is a transmittal letter from my office evidencing the fact that an attested copy of the ordinance was sent to the Berks County Law Library. Board exhibit B3 is the copy of the attested copy of the full ordinance containing the stamp of the Berks County Law Library evidencing the fact that they received it on October 18th. Board exhibit B4 is the transmittal letter from my office dated October 16th evidencing the fact that the ordinance was sent to the Berks County Planning Commission. Board exhibit B5 is a transmittal letter from my office evidencing the fact that the attested full copy of the ordinance was sent to the Reading Eagle Company. And I am marking as board exhibit B6 the same November 15th letter from the Berks County Planning Commission. The Berks County Planning Commission does not have to review this short-term rental registration ordinance, but it's always been my practice to send any type of ordinance that involves any kind of land activity to the Berks County Planning Commission, and they frequently do comment. And in fact, Cheryl made a comment here, which I'll cover in a few seconds. So this is the short-term rental registration ordinance that would be the companion to the zoning amendments. And this would be the time for any members of the public to ask questions or provide comment or testimony. Is there any member of the public that wishes to do so? Please let the record reflect that no one is indicating any right or desire to do so. Do any of the board members have any comment or wish to make any comment? Please let the record reflect that the board does not wish to do that. Our planning commission, or the Berks County Planning Commission, noted one correction in the registration ordinance that appears on page 2 under section 28-4C, where we had forgotten to take out the word tourist home because it is regulated by this ordinance. And that section lists the other defined terms that are not. So again, it's a type of cleanup, typo, that is well within the province of the board to do. Otherwise, they made no other comment. But I noted their, letter as a board exhibit here so that it's in this record. If, this ordinance, I can say again to then, to give the public a little bit of insight, the, Mr. Steve and a lot of other members of the, board had a lot of input on this. It's designed to, allow for, some reasonable regulation of short-term rental activity in the township, so the township knows what's going on, and can protect the public interest. So last call for public comment. Again, let the record reflect that no one is indicating any desire to do that. And before we close this hearing, I will note for the public that the Board of Supervisors intends to immediately convene its regular monthly meeting, at which it does intend to take action on this ordinance and to adopt the ordinance. So please feel free to stick around for that. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I believe we've again fulfilled our requirements under the code for the public hearing, and I believe you can adjourn this public hearing and convene your regular monthly meeting.
Okay, thank you, Solicitor Orlando.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn this meeting so we can convene with the regular meeting.
I'll second. Roll call, Mr. Steve,
Yes.
Mr. Bittler,
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes.
Yes.
No, yes. All right, we'll go to citizens' concern. Is there anybody here for any citizens' concern? Alright. If not, alright, we will continue, and in our packets, correspondence from Mr. Thomas Kine, his, let's read the letter, his vacancy board position, I guess, runs out the current term, December 31st, and he's writing a letter to express his interest in continuing that position. Alright, Chief.
Good evening, Board. First request I have is I'm gonna recommend a motion to approve Alarm Tech Systems to perform security system work at the police department in the amount of $4,668. That is for an alarm system upgrade, a monitoring system, door locks, and also a new DVR, so we can upgrade our video system as we go down the road.
I'll make a motion to approve the alarm tech systems.
I'll second it.
Roll call, Mr. Steve.
Yeah.
Mr. Bittler.
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes.
Yes.
No, I vote yes.
Thank you, Board. Second item on my agenda is recommending a motion to authorize me to sign a bill of sale with Penske in the amount of $1 for office furniture for our police office.
I'll make a motion to authorize Chief Dennis Castle to sign the bill of sale with Penske.
I'll second that.
Roll call, Mr. Steve.
Yes.
Mr. Bittler.
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes.
Yes.
No, I vote yes.
Thank you. Third is a recommended motion to authorize interim manager Rich Howlett to purchase an Easy Pass transponder and set up an Easy Pass account. Cost of the purchase of the transponder is $35, and then there's obviously renewal fees that will go along with that. And that would be for joint use between the police department, public works, and township.
And don't they also put money right on the Easy Pass, so what's that, we're gonna have to put a dollar number in here.
35, it's also 35 is the minimum.
35
We'll have to
and
set a
35?
renewal fee, so we can do 35. Recommendation, we would start with 100 total, which would include the transponder. That gives you some room.
Just do
As they
100.
set a renew, we're gonna have to set a renewal amount. My recommendation would be to set the renewal amount at 50. And what that does is every time that hits the 50 mark, it'll automatically renew with an additional $50. That makes sense, right? So we'll start with 100, set the renewal at 50. The transponder will be above that 100, the original, so 135, and then we'll have that, and every time it hits, that way we always have enough room, so don't work.
I'll make a motion to authorize.
I'll second that.
Roll call, Mr. Steve,
Yes.
Mr. Bitler,
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes.
Thank you. D on my agenda is the resolution number 2313. I am not asking any action at this time. I reviewed it prior to the meeting, and I need to make a couple changes to that resolution. So we'll deal with that next month. And then the next item I have, we received correspondence from the Berks County District Attorney's Office relative to a donation for Crime Alert, Berks County. The admin gave it to me, obviously, since it's more along the police spectrum. They have a recommended donation for municipal population, that's how they break it down. Less than 2,000, they recommend $250, 2,000 to 4,500. 4 to 10,000 residents, $750, 10,000 above, 1,000 or more. Interim Manager Hallett did research this, and our last contribution was in 2020, and the township contributed $200 to Crime Alert Berks County. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention. It's up to you if you take action on it.
I'll make a motion that we, make a donation to Crime Alert Berks County. They have helped us previously, an amount of $300.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call, Mr. Steve,
Yes.
Mr. Bitler,
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes.
Okay, and I have nothing further this evening unless the board has something to make.
Giving tours.
If you want. Might better wait a month.
All right, then in our packet for number 6, we got monthly expenses. And we're gonna make a motion to approve the monthly expenses.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Roll call, Mr. Steve,
Yes.
Mr. Bitler,
I'll vote yes to the recurring expenses, but no to the other ones.
Mr. Rhodes,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes.
I'll make a motion that we accept the treasurer's report.
I'll second. Roll call, Mr. Steve,
Hold on 1 second. Are we referring to the documents that was in the workshop packet called balance sheet, profit and loss? Is that what we're referring to, Mr. Steve, in your motion?
Yes.
Is there some way we can have a formal defined document called a treasurer's report going forward? So we're approving a treasurer's report, and someone asked me, well, it's a balance sheet. That's a profit and loss, it's not a treasurer's report.
Thank you.
Is there some way we can combine titles, group?
I'm sure that we can get the title of that change to reflect whatever we want.
and then just to,
But like I said, but my motion was to accept it. We're not approving it, we're not doing an audit of it, we're
Can
accepting.
we accept what it actually is?
Right, you're right, it should reflect what it says.
so you can just make a balance sheet / treasurer's report. That's good enough for
Well,
next time.
Well, there's a profit and loss.
Yeah, but for all those pages that are included in what we're saying treasurer's report, just do a slash.
I've got an accountant constituent that has concerns with our
Like I said,
capitalization.
we can get that heading changed on that to reflect that.
So yeah, we're just accepting these reports.
Did somebody second that?
I'll second.
Roll call, Mr. Steve,
Yes.
Mr. Bitler,
Yes, with the designation that these are actually treasury reports.
Mr. Rhodes,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Would anybody like to approve the sewer agent report?
A footnote on that aging sewer report, there's one that's not included on that. And, we talked about it briefly last night at the sewer authority meeting. There's someone who's not paid a sewer bill because they weren't properly billed. And, we're working on correcting that. So I'll make a motion that we accept that report.
I'll second.
Roll call, Mr. Steve,
Yes.
Mr. Bitler,
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes,
Yes.
and I vote yes. The budget advertise for,
Yeah, we can't approve that yet.
Now the meeting, the letter E, the meeting schedule, I would like to make one correction. The EAC would like to return to monthly meetings instead of every other month. So that's just the first Thursday of the month. That would be one correction. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2024 meeting schedule with that correction.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call, Mr. Steve,
Yes.
Mr. Bittler,
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. All right. Chief, cool.
Good evening, everybody. You have our report from last month. It's noted on here that it was not received, but however, it should have been received on November 6th. You do have it, correct?
We got one today.
Packet.
It's in your
They're in
packet.
the back.
Okay, I was just noted on the back, it wasn't received. Okay, so you have that. Couple things coming up in our plans. December 17th, we're gonna be taking Santa around the township on that Sunday, as normal. We did something new this year. We have a mailbox at our station for kids to drop notes to Santa, and Santa will be responding to them up until that day. We will be having a breakfast with Santa for our normal December breakfast. Send an email to the board and Mr. Howard here. Obviously, I think everybody's seen on Saturday afternoon we were operating on 176 with brush fire in Carnarvon Township and Robeson Township, and a passenger vehicle struck not only Twin Valleys command vehicle but our tanker, causing severe damage to both. Our tanker is currently at Fireline in New Holland. The claim was submitted through general insurance. That's all in progress. They're handling. The goal right now is for us to have that truck back tomorrow night in service, but not fixed. It did crack some water pipes that would allow out the whole water, but they're gonna expedite that so we can put the truck back in service. They're looking at 6 to 8 weeks for a full repair, so they're gonna call us when they're ready to bring it in. And the insurance has picked up everything and said that no problem, we'll cover it. It's gonna be perfect when you get it back. So that's the update on that email.
What's the consequence when somebody just?
I'll finish it with state police handle the investigation, and then I'll let the chief finish that.
Yeah, there's multiple. I mean, when you look at something like that, obviously they violated numerous sections of the code, which is the Passover law. You know, move over the law, not Passover, move over the law. And, you know, there's pretty stiff fines with that. And if, you know, firefighters get injured, which there was one.
He was evaluated from Twin Valley. He was actually struck by their vehicle after it got hit. Unfortunately, it was the perfect hit. A foot left or right made a huge difference. It did bump him. We made sure he was evaluated, but he went on his way.
Yeah, penalties increase with injury and death. And if it's a situation where you cannot move over a lane, they're required to drop their speed to 20 under the speed limit when they pass by. Interstate is a dangerous road for everyone, including all emergency responders.
I'd express some concern, Mr. Gula, with your characterization that the general, in your email, that the general public doesn't get it or doesn't understand. I think they do. I think maybe your wording of that was not the best. I think if you have a rogue person who will pay a price, but I think the general public respects the firefighters. I've responded to several scenes or several accidents on 176 in recent months.
I can say from personal opinion that they do not. That's
So
my
you
opinion.
think the general people driving down 176 don't care about the firefighters? That's what you think?
Not 100%, but a very large percentage, yes. We had actually, prior to this incident, we had several cones out directing traffic that were run over and destroyed. We put people in the way to slow tractor trailers down that were doing 65 on the shoulder passing us. Unfortunately, I've never seen you up there with an incident, but my 20 years of being up there, some people comply, but
I had a discussion with Cumberland Police at a scene when they had their vehicle partly in the right lane of the northbound 176. I've, was there on a Sunday when it seemed to be 30 firefighters on one vehicle with multiple fire companies, and there were no problems. So I understand what you're saying, but the general public, I think, does respect it, does appreciate what you guys do. And so I just don't like the characterization like that.
I have my opinion, you have yours. Final item that I have for my thing is, there's obviously been some ongoing discussions with the board to help both fire departments. Specifically, there was a discussion about helping Gibraltar with growing membership, getting their trucks out the door. I just want to say, in my opinion, it's disheartening that a member of this board went out of their way to go to that firehouse and speak to a new member in a disparaging manner about not only their own fire department, our fire department, myself, two members of this board making statements that the board wants them closed down. Residents of Gibraltar want them closed down, and they better watch out for myself coming in and Supervisor Rhodes on the board because we're after them. It's disheartening that rather than spending time to fix the problems, we try to drive a wedge between the departments, or between the department and the board and the current incoming board. It's just sad, and that's my statement.
Can you be more specific?
I was pretty
Referencing
specific.
members of the board and et cetera.
A member of this board,
Meaning our board of supervisors.
your board of supervisors at that table,
Identify it?
I think they knew who they are.
Well, I'm asking if you care to identify it.
I think he's asking the questions right now.
Excuse me?
Did you speak to someone at Gibraltar Fire Company on Veterans Day?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've
Okay,
never
then you
made
know what your comments
disparaging
were.
comments about Geigertown and Gibraltar.
That's why this new
One
member
of
came
the
to
comments
us.
from Gibraltar was, and this was a female, was that she was getting disrespected from your fire company. Now, we have a problem with this firefighting service.
I don't think you do.
I think we do.
I think you're
The
causing a
number of
problem.
second calls, I'm not causing any problems, I'm seeing second calls, non-responses, issues. A major issue just as it relates to Gibraltar Fire Company. Now,
So the
I see
comments
that
made
there's a
are not
problem,
helping.
we have a duty as a board here to have fire protection. And I don't think it's being run as good as it should.
By
That's my opinion.
both departments, one
That's my
department.
opinion. Both needs improvement. Here's your guide. I don't understand. Here's your website.
Mhm.
I don't understand. Maybe you can help me with this.
I will
You can
gladly
answer
help
it.
if anything I
I
can.
don't understand how there are a lot of guys that live closer, and I'm not a firefighter, folks. There's a lot of guys that live closer to Gibraltar.
Three.
An alarm goes out and they go to Geigertown, not Gibraltar.
Three.
When they have, what I understand, some guys have dual credentials. Help
They
me
do not.
understand why that would
They
be.
do not have dual credentials. There's three individuals that live closer to Gibraltar than our fire department. There was a discussion here, I think Supervisor Steve even brought up them allowing our members to help them. I had a private discussion in the parking lot on the same topic, and it's dead. There's been no
So you're saying
conversation.
Gibraltar doesn't welcome help?
I am saying the offer was extended and it was not
Okay, now,
received.
who at Gibraltar does that?
Who?
Yeah.
I don't know who. I spoke to the chief.
And that's Jeff Cook?
It was the evening that you had us both here to discuss
So the
this.
the three fellows, what's the reason for not going?
They're not members there. They're members of our department.
Well, I'm asking, what typically generates someone's interest? Why would they go to Geigertown?
So I can tell you the three individuals involved, one was a member there years ago and chose not to be. Actually, I'll make it two now. One just moved back to within a quarter mile of our firehouse, so we'll take him out of the mix. And the third has been a member of our fire department for over 30 years and happened to purchase a house a little closer to this side of the township. But we also have
I
an
don't
additional
feel I'm
15
clear
people
on
on that side.
I don't feel that I'm any clear on that, but
I can't help
I
you.
think both fire companies, I'm concerned, I told you about the ladder truck. I think I mentioned something to you, Mr. Rhodes, about that, Geigertown's ladder truck. I've got some concerns that that's probably one of the most expensive to insure.
I would imagine it's a $2
The
million
last time we
replacement.
talked about that, and I don't wanna speak when Mr. Brown's not here, but the last time we talked about that, it seemed that you were sensitive when people were asking about questions when we're paying for the insurance.
Yeah, it
We're
wasn't-
trying to help you.
That wasn't
You seem-
based on the ladder truck.
You seem sensitive. Well, I don't know what his question was based
I
on,
know,
but
you know what it was.
I don't. So, I'm certainly gonna ask questions, I'm certainly
You
gonna
may
learn.
ask questions.
You know,
You've
I
been
look
invited
forward- I
several
look forward
times
to that.
to our meetings, our Monday nights. Please come down and learn.
Absolutely.
Maybe things will,
So
clarity will form.
for the record, I just wanna make a comment, because I know some things, you know, were possibly said. For the public that's out here and the few that are on YouTube, I never once said I wanted to close Gibraltar down, had any intentions of closing Gibraltar down. So that's, you know, I wanna make that known, cause that's disheartening to hear. Especially when, we have made offers to have the members that are out here closer run down there, and nothing's ever, you know, brought back to us. But I need to be clear about that, because there's never once that I said that, and the fact that, you know, that is being said by somebody to somebody at Gibraltar is quite disheartening, so.
Well,
It's a lie, by the way, it's a lie.
In support of that, those rumors are going around, but I've never heard anyone from Geigertown say that explicitly. I think people make assumptions.
Right, but apparently that assumption came from you to this
No.
person,
No, I'm telling you, I've never heard that.
but you said it.
There are rumors circulating. I don't spread rumors.
Well, you
So-
spread it to this gentleman,
Well,
so you're telling lies about people, right?
no,
You're
not at all.
talking-
Not at all. I've not heard you say that.
You are. I know you haven't, but you told this gentleman that I did,
Alright,
so.
anything else, chief?
No, I'm nothing.
The only other thing I would like to add to the conversation is, there was a fire, 2 weeks ago, I guess. And we have 2 firefighters who work for the township who were just finishing their shift. And it would have been very convenient for them to go to Gibraltar to get a truck, because the fire was on Rock Hollow.
Correct. They came direct in personal vehicles.
Exactly, so they had to go on POVs and, without a fire apparatus, hoping somebody brought one.
And I appreciate the board's support and the manager, whoever was involved in letting these two help. They're both well-trained, very experienced. That is a great asset. I'm not asking them to leave for a cat in a tree or a smoking wire, but in the instance of an accident where lives are at stake or a fire, I greatly appreciate those two
I think
coming.
that's something we as a board
We
need to consider how we're going to allow that participation to occur. And then part B of that is how do we get them access to the equipment they're gonna need?
You know, Barry has he's a member with us, he has full access to our building. Brian, reached out and I think he's willing to take him on, and I know he has his dedication in Exeter, but during the 8 hours or so he's here, absolutely.
But we have half the job done.
What's that?
We have half the job done.
Anything else, chief?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Minutes, successes, and reports.
I'll make a motion that we approve the October 12th, 2023 meeting minutes. Can we loop them all together? I'll do that then. The workshop, the regular meeting and the budget meeting minutes.
I'll say roll call, Mr. Steve.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
No.
Mr. Rhodes?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. And we have the multiple reports. And I'd like to make a motion to accept the reports in our possession.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second, roll call, Mr. Steve.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Okay, nearing Ryan. Good evening, board. I had circulated my report previously to you. The first item under my agenda items is the Rock Hollow Road Bridge. As you are aware, we requested and have received proposals for engineering services for the engineering associated with the replacement of the superstructure of that bridge. They were outlined in my engineer's report to you. Those costs are presented from Whitman Engineering, Whitman Engineers and Consultants. Their engineering fee is $42,940. Ritu Engineering is at $132,000, and Larson Design Group is at $86,910. There was a series of questions to each of those potential engineering firms. I did circulate the responses to the board. I'm not sure if we are at a point here where the board is comfortable to select an engineering firm to assist us going forward, or if there's any discussion that we'd like to have in advance of that.
As I recall, with the all said and done, Whitman was the best.
I believe that Whitman Engineers' price for engineering services is certainly the best. I also believe if you remove the 130,000 and change that they had included in their construction estimate, that was associated with the adjustments for the paving approaches on the bridge, their engineering cost is generally in line with the other two. Or, I'm sorry, their construction cost is generally in line with the other two. There were two, quote, appeared high to me in construction phase services. I noted that in my report. And I did ask them about that. They did offer to provide that service at time and material, but they felt that that was a fair price. So my takeaway from that was that.
We're gonna pay that for the
You're gonna pay it.
$32,000,
Right.
one way or the other.
Larson Design Group, their original proposal was to reuse the interior beams. I did check into that. They are comfortable with proposing new beams if the board would prefer that. Again, their construction cost was generally in line with the other two. So you're looking at essentially a $550,000 to $500,000 bridge replacement, and then the engineering costs in front of that.
So who do you like, that you've dealt with or worked with?
So we have dealt extensively with both Whitman and Ritu. I think that they are both well qualified. In speaking with both bidders, I believe Whitman's price is lower primarily because they're here. They're in our backyard. They're the closest engineering firm to this bridge. I believe that there's an economy of scale that Bill has cited to me for the construction phase of this, that they feel they can be there quickly and on and off the site as needed. And I believe they also have probably a little more experience permitting this type of structure on that waterway since they've permitted bridges on either side of this as well.
They also did Evergreen, didn't they?
They certainly did.
You know, I think we ought to move on this because this bridge isn't gonna get built unless we do
It's only
something.
gonna get better, yeah.
So, you say Whitman was $43,943?
Correct.
I'll make a motion that we accept that proposal from Whitman, to design the bridge.
I'll send it, I'll call Mr. Steve,
Yes.
Mr. Bidler.
I have some reluctance on that project, but it needs fixed, so we're gonna have to go yes right now.
Mr. Rhodes?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
Thank you, board. I will notify all the bidders and we'll move forward. Second item under my agenda is the 2024 street work. I have worked with Barry and the Township office to come up with a scope of work. We are currently in a holding pattern. I did discuss with Supervisor Steve, waiting to hear if we're going to move forward with bidding this collectively with our neighboring municipalities. Either way, we're ready to roll whenever this is ready to proceed. So our numbers are in and we have our estimates. So we'd be ready to either jump in with the other municipalities or proceed on our own.
As I understand it, from talking to the other municipalities, everybody's in agreement this is what we should do. We're waiting to hear back from one municipality as to who is gonna put this together and do it, whether it is our engineer, or Brecknox, Union there, they don't care who does it. So, as soon as we get that answer back, we'll be turning everybody's paperwork over, for somebody to work on. And then we'll split the cost 3 ways.
Item C under my agenda, quite frankly, I'm not all that familiar with. I believe, are you here to discuss that? My understanding of this item is we have a township resident here this evening who submitted a building permit for a property in the township on which there is an existing home, which I believe you rent. Is that,
Yes.
you rent out,
Yes,
correct?
currently rented month to month.
Right. And the request here is similar to one that had been entertained in the past by the board, where this property owner would like to maintain that rental on the property until the new home is completed.
Yeah, I don't care.
Your name, please?
Stephen Smucker. Okay. And the property's at 73 Weaver Road. I don't care if the house is empty, I was just preferring to take it down after we live there, because we live an hour away. And I'm okay with, like, if you guys do a letter stating, you know, give me a 6-month window after we move in, or some, whatever you're comfortable with, giving me the time to take some of the existing stuff out that's still worth something, and then demolishing it from there.
So I did not handle this, Technicon did. I have had conversation with Ted from Technicon, and he was seeking advice or permission from the board to proceed as such. And the question became, you know, I think in the past we've had Gene prepare an agreement so that we're sure that we do not end up with 2 dwellings on one side.
Something's on the day of.
Correct, that was the last.
So we looking for a motion to let that happen, or we just saying it's part of the normal process?
Well, we could do an arrangement or agreement. And
Yeah, I think we need to make a motion to have an agreement written up, right?
And how many months, what's our,
Is it spelled out in the ordinance?
if it is, I don't know off the top of my head.
Which one's about that?
Like how long we would give him to demolish the house?
I think that was on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. 6 months work for you?
That would work for me, I would really appreciate that, yes.
Alright, so
It's most down the line if he's.
when do you plan on starting?
And you guys are going to need to define the start date, like is it the move-in date, or I don't know, the occupancy?
Well, that's why I'm asking the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, when do you plan on moving in?
We would like to move in by May or June.
I would say 6 months from when we move in, right? 6 months from the certificate of occupancy.
So, yeah, that's where I was going.
That sounds more official, that sounds good. So we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion would be to authorize me to put.
Authorize you to go ahead and make the agreement,
Subject to the board approval.
yeah, subject to him, getting an occupancy permit 6 months after the structure must be demolished.
Does that sound good?
Yes, I appreciate it, thanks, guys.
No, we have a motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call, Mr. Steve,
Yes.
Mr. Bitler,
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes.
Yes.
I vote yes. Item D, under my report, should have been struck from your agenda. I do not have a presentation for that, as they did not attend the planning commission. That's all I have for you this evening, unless you have questions for me. Any questions for Bob?
If not, we'll go to Solicitor Orlando.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Earlier tonight, the board held a public hearing for consideration of amending the township zoning ordinance to create short-term rentals as a discrete use. I believe would be appropriate for the board to consider adopting that ordinance. I believe it would be ordinance 2023-02. Does the board wish to take action on that ordinance as we discussed during the public hearing?
I will make that motion, we adopt that zoning ordinance 2023-02.
I'll second. Roll call, Mr. Steve,
Yes.
Mr. Bitler,
No.
Mr. Rhodes.
Yes.
No vote yes.
So let me hand out, there are multiple copies here for the board. Our manager will need, should have, 2 for certification, 1 for the ordinance book, so I would suggest that you sign at least 3 of them.
Can we catch up to it later?
Yeah, I'll let these.
Okay.
And here,
So we can continue.
Then earlier this evening, the board held a public hearing to consider adopting a short-term rental regulatory ordinance. That would be ordinance 2023-03. Does the board wish to adopt that as we discussed at the public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we adopt regulatory ordinance 2023-03.
I'll second. Roll call, Mr. Steve?
Yes.
Mr. Bitler?
No.
Mr. Rhodes?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
And again, I'm handing to Harold for the board signature. There are 5 ordinances, 5 copies. And one of the things that we learned in this process is that when the board adopted the 2021 zoning ordinance, it appeared that the ordinance was not, the signed and adopted ordinance was not circulated as required. The planning commission in Berks County did not have it. We searched the law library and they did not have it. So I'm bringing that up because, and I've already spoken to our manager about this, but I think it's important for all of us in this room to be on the same page. In ordinance adoption, when I have been asked to handle that, the general protocol which I have followed with all of my townships has been that we work with township personnel, of course, but we're kind of the supervising entity, if you will, for pre-ordinance adoptions, like placing public hearing notices, advertising, sending the attested copies, etc. But once the ordinance is adopted, the township really has to place it in the ordinance book. And for the circulation that's required, and what is required for these particular ordinances, that's why I'm mentioning it now. The county law library is the repository for adopted ordinances. So adopted ordinances should go to the Berks County Law Library. When it's a zoning ordinance or any land use ordinance, it should also go to the Berks County Planning Commission. And Rich and I think, have already coordinated that he's gonna take care of post-hearing adoptions. So I thought it was prudent to alert the board that that's how we're gonna handle it. All right, so let me.
Mr. Orlando, before you continue, whose responsibility was that?
I do not know what you did prior to my.
Typically, who would handle it?
I can only tell you what I did in my township, so I cannot comment about what Robeson Township did before I was solicitor. I'm sorry, Tim, I don't know. I do not know what the protocol was.
Whenever we foul up, folks, no one ever knows. I'm not blaming Gene for not knowing. No one ever knows. No one's ever accountable, no one's ever responsible. This is the ordinances. This is what's on our website. These are fouled up. We just heard that. Look at this, folks.
May I continue? At the workshop meeting, the board asked me to take a look at a nuisance ordinance, which the board has been circulating. I did not have a chance, I did review this ordinance, and in my opinion, I did not have an opportunity to review this as thoroughly or to see how it fits into the code, which were some of the concerns that Tim raised during the workshop. I did not have a chance to make that level of evaluation of the draft of this nuisance ordinance. I can tell you that the time I have spent on it tells me that I have no hesitation in telling the board that this ordinance is not ready for adoption. It is my view that drafting revisions should be considered, and I would like authorization from the board to pursue that on the board's behalf over the next month or two.
Is that, you concluded that commentary on that?
Yes.
Well, folks, before we go into creating more ordinances, the question is, in my mind, do we need it? I personally would like to do away with some of these ordinances. I have taken an opportunity. Most of what's in here, one way or another, is regulated in here and just ignored or selectively enforced. So it's not working. Ordinances are not the solutions here. It's just not.
That's why I'm asking.
Right, and I would encourage this board, before we go spending more money and more money, to just, let's have a discussion on some of the ordinances that we're not enforcing now. Are we going to, should we take them out? There's already laws on the books on a lot of this stuff. So we shouldn't, as a board, rush to over-regulate what is a nice rural township, particularly when we as a township don't even follow our own rules.
Chief, did you end up looking at this since the workshop?
No,
I think this should be tabled indefinitely while we engage in a meaningful discussion on this monstrosity. I recommend, I'll make a motion that
we direct our solicitor to take no further action until we as a board can sit down. And I'll be willing to do that next workshop.
So I've already been through this at least one time. And the interaction between an ordinance, which I asked to be put on the website, was it? Is the draft ordinance on our website?
I don't think so.
Typically, draft ordinances are not published.
Well, I'm not interested in typically. I'm interested in, here folks, take a look at this. I'm not interested in doing things the same way every time, getting the same results. How about something a little different? How about you people read this ordinance? For some people, they might think it's initially, oh, a good thing. I don't want to hear dogs bark. Well, we already have stuff on dogs barking. My dog barks at 4 o'clock in the morning, particularly when there's a fox. And it might bark more than a half hour.
So you wanna put that on the website?
So I wanna put a
everyone to review.
7-page ordinance on a website. This, if you can put this much on, Mr. Steve, if this can be put on the website,
It's already on.
why can't we,
It's already on. It's been on for years.
this stuff?
That's all the ordinances.
Absolutely. Why not put this nuisance on,
nobody's
new
reading-
nuisance, no, why not put it on?
Nobody's reading that.
Well,
Why would they want to read a draft?
Well, first.
they can't read what's not there, Mr.
Solicitor-
Steve.
Well, Solicitor Lando asked a question, if we'd make a motion to have him look further into this, you're.
I've made a motion that we table this matter and we direct no further action from our solicitor yet and put it on the agenda for the workshop meeting. December.
Now, if no one seconds your motion, but no one makes any other motions.
I'm gonna second that motion.
Yeah, that's fine. Because, yeah, I mean, the thing is now, well, first, roll call, Mr. Steve,
No.
Mr. Baylor,
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Now, the thing is, with that, though, I mean, you say there's certain ordinances you wanna review. Do you wanna point out two, then we have copies of them, if you wanna see if there's something that's in some of them that's, you know, that covers.
Sure, there's probably a lot more than
Well,
that.
I'm sure, but the thing is,
Right.
we can't review that whole thing at the workshop.
This whole
And
thing.
correspond, and
Right.
cross-reference with
First, the
this.
discussion in December will be, do we need any ordinance at all?
But-
So I don't go down the
You
road.
mean a nuisance ordinance, you don't mean
Right.
general.
Right. Do we need
Well,
any
then-
new ordinance?
then
And then
have
you 3 or 4, if Mr. Brown's here, you can convince me why we should have
Well,
this ordinance at
Have
all.
you marked on these other ones here where it's covering stuff in here?
At points, yes. and not marked, that's a clean copy.
Yeah, so we can do that, but like I said,
So,
we can't.
so
do
now
that.
you've been chairing the board for a number of years, you've been on the board a number of years. How within this code do we regulate dogs?
Well, I think
So
initially.
the noise ordinance,
Excuse me?
And the noise ordinance, which I think the police go out, I don't know the details off the top of my head.
That's one way. Look at just last month with apparently our code person, which I don't understand where this is coming from exactly, relating to feral cats. Have you seen that?
there's an ordinance for that.
Oh, okay, an ordinance for cat, we already have how many things? So I don't believe anybody on the board is intending to create a problem. I think the answer is there are already solutions to the problems. Throwing more ordinances is not the answer.
I agree, the point is, 3 or 4 of us agreed with you, so.
Right.
The point is, can you
So,
pick out 2 or 3?
Absolutely, I can make suggestions
And then
where
we
some
can
of this is already
cross
code.
reference where it's close to this
I'll
and see
try
how it's.
and do that by
You
December's
know, whether
meeting.
it's the feral, I mean, you brought up feral cat for one, you brought up the dogs too. What would be the third one? The third one, the main one that
Weeds
started
and-
all this, well, the one that made the start of this whole process was the noise and the explosions. So could you,
Right, and I believe that as it relates to
Can
the
we do those-
explosions,
Well,
in that instance, there's a, what do you call that, tannerite? Am I saying that right, chief? Right, and I believe that that tannerite may have strapped 5 or 10 of those things together to provide that kind of bang. When I tried to purchase some tannerite, I ran into some blocks, but I will get some to understand what's happening.
so what do you wanna do? You wanna do dogs, cats, we can do
Well,
that as
Well,
one?
I wanna look at the whole thing,
I
and
know,
then,
but people need to do a piecemeal. You're not gonna do,
Well, why don't you just take the proposed ordinance and pull out
Well,
what
that's
things
what-
that was covered?
no, I'm not in favor of any new ordinance till we talk about the old
But
ordinance.
as far as
that's
the,
the
So
cross.
you wanna go ahead, Harold, with an ordinance and just take stuff out? I don't think we need that ordinance, period. The conversation, and I can show you examples where it's covered in other areas. So therefore, we don't need it at all.
Well, that's fine, but I was like, if you could point out the.
but you
dog
have to
park,
update those 7 or 8 ordinances that are covered. So for instance, noise ordinance. Who here has a decibel meter to go out there and measure noise? So we have to give a different tool that we don't need that. But then that puts us back right here with another hearing and, to amend that.
Yeah, so I have no problem doing this piecemeal, see what is in this one that's, we're not doing anything with, and see what's already covered, and then if something's covered, great, if not.
Well, if it is covered, is it effective or does it need to be fixed?
So it's a,
Then that ordinance could be amended as opposed to creating a new issue. So I don't agree with you, Chris, that we should start with taking out stuff. I
I'm not
think
saying
we
take
should.
it out, I'm saying, see what's, I didn't say that, I'm saying, look at what you have, see what you think's in
Right.
here, I'm not saying take out anything, it's, if there's,
Right.
if it works,
We-
it
we
doesn't
don't-
work.
We don't need it at all, is what I'm
Well,
saying.
that's, yeah, but that's the point, if you've proven on there that we have something that's in here and it works, then we don't need this. I mean, that's,
Gentlemen, may I make a suggestion? Mr. Orlando and I had a very good conversation. One of the things that he had recommended to me was to print the ordinances, and then as we identified issues and or concerns with those ordinances, to write those in there. And the one that we were specifically speaking of at the time was with regard to the growth of bamboo here in the township. Started that process. I recommend that we establish a way to review this annually, so that we go through it. Perhaps the first 3 months of the year is an annual review of our ordinances. We can each take some of those and go through them as a team. And then we spend the next 1 to 2 months having a discussion on those, make recommendations on what the revisions are, and then we can have those prior to the August timeframe, so we can have that timeframe between September and December to update everything and get it in where it needs to go, whether that's the approval process and then to the law library or the planning commission. Does that make sense? to everyone?
Yeah, your scope is too large, or you're gonna have to pick out so many at a time.
Well, yes, I understand.
But
We divide those up and we're gonna
Because
have to.
if you're gonna review 27, it's 700 pages long.
Correct, and I do understand, but it was a great suggestion on Mr. Orlando's part on just a way to break this down a little bit further and to start identifying, I would agree with Mr. Bittler on that this is something we need to work
Or
on.
what are the, like, 2 or 3 main things for the workshop next month? I mean, like I said, we can't do 700 pages, but we can do, what is?
I think we should start with this nuisance, so-called nuisance ordinance, but when I had said.
But I'm asking what part of that would you think is covered there? If the dog's covered, the cats are covered, the noise is covered.
If it is, I
then-
mean, let's talk about it in December and not belabor the point. One of the issues that I've said, and Richard, this is no disrespect to you, but one of the issues, folks, with budgets is a lack of, within our own ordinances and our own policy, allowing our manager to go to our solicitor that we don't know about, allowing staff people to go to our solicitor when we don't even know what I feel is what's happening. So I think, and I'll give you an example, as it relates to the fire companies. I'll give you an example. We have firefighters, two right here, Jeff and Scott. They're talking to our, I guess, current manager, whatever you want to say, about rumors and all this different things, and then our manager goes to Mr. Orlando. I go and I have Gerald's minutes. We're gonna look at the minutes. All of that's wasting time, wasting energy. So as it relates to the ordinance under the manager's duty, that's where we can start. I've asked for that for 6 months and nobody even looks at it. What you're saying is review the ordinances. I've been proposing that review at least for that long because I see it as a problem. That's not a personal comment. It's just our managers in the past and our employees in the past, in my opinion, don't follow the best, most productive, most cost-efficient path. And then down the road, we don't know half of what's going on unless it was a special interest type of consideration. That's my opinion.
Yeah, so,
Anything else?
yeah, the only thing I say is, like I said, you gotta keep.
No, I have a couple more things,
Yeah.
whenever you're ready.
Okay,
Yes,
go ahead.
and then continue. All right, go
So,
ahead.
the solicitation ordinance was placed on my agenda, not by me. So,
Carol, what was?
Oh, no, you guys had, I was asked to look and see what, whether it was updated or not. And, so it was not updated, but we did pass a resolution changing some of the content of that. I sent you an email saying, hey, was this appropriate or not? And he wouldn't act on it until he talked to the board.
Mr. State, if I may ask, I may have missed it, when did you send that email to him?
I don't know.
Could you check and get back to me and maybe send me a copy of that email? I thought, Chief, this was already done.
It was being worked on in the past by,
Well, okay, so, like I said, what happened was he didn't update the ordinance. He created a resolution to fix
You're talking about Richard, our
former manager, yes.
current manager,
Yeah, right, okay, whatever.
right? So he did some kind of resolution. It just doesn't seem it should be this painful. Folks, what we're talking about here is a solicitation ordinance where people go around the township. We don't have any more or less control of that. Or we can issue a permit, but we need more oversight. I've had multiple complaints, and the chief has done a good job responding within what he can. But I really thought this should have been done in the last couple of months, and that's another reason why, as it relates to this other nuisance ordinance, let's figure out and fix the things we know is broken that seem to go by the wayside.
Yeah,
In other words, Harold, I don't understand.
My struggle right here is, it's important for us to stop people from knocking on people's door trying to sell them something. But when my neighbor's blowing up my yard, it's not important.
Well, when your neighbor blows up your yard, I didn't say it wasn't important. I already said there are things that cover that. And you're not comparing apples to apples. You've lost that battle, Mr. Steve, at least temporarily. Your willingness to regulate is.
What would you like from us regarding the solicitation?
I don't know what I've been asked to do, if anything. I'm looking for the board to tell me whether or not you want me to do anything with the solicitation.
I'd like to see the email to you first. That's what I'd
The
like to see.
only thing the email contained was the resolution and the ordinance.
Okay, and we had a wonderful discussion, Chief, on that, and what you were suggesting with a list of people. Right, so what have you done on that, or
I had provided that to Manager Ulrich, and where it went from there, I have no idea.
are you aware of anything? Okay, now, folks, we have had transition here in the last 2 years of management. We've had some issues. That's no secret. But I think the board as a whole has confidence in our solicitor, confidence in our interim manager, soon to change perhaps. It just takes us more time and a focus, not a kick the can down the road. So let us as a board, let us as 4 or 5 guys on a board, send something to Gene, summarize that a little bit where we are, coordinate that, and then maybe by the workshop, we'll be able to get that. It is particularly interesting, in my opinion, to protect some of our senior citizens. The chief had some new ideas on that, and they've been around with roof solicitations. When the recent trash hauler had a problem, they were all over that, trying to get that guy's business. There was, in addition to that, there was tree removal, roof solicitations. There was 4 or 5 that old people were getting.
No, I'm not even touching that, are you kidding? I'm going to.
Alright, that's a
So,
copy of the resolution.
My understanding that the board's not asking me to do anything on that at this
Correct.
time.
We're gonna put that on the agenda for the December
Is
workshop.
that the consensus of the board?
And here's the ordinance.
Great, then I have 2 other things. Number 1, I request an executive session with the board to discuss a personnel matter that I need to update the board on. And finally, on November the 8th, the Commonwealth Court rendered a decision with regard to the procedure concerning amendments of agendas and severely restricted the ability to amend agendas for non-emergency matters. I started to read that case so that I could give you more insight, but had other more pressing deadlines to meet. I'm simply advising the board that there's a new case out there. It's the first case to adopt, if I remember correctly, I think it was Act 56 or something from 2020, when agendas had to be published in advance. So the Commonwealth Court has now interpreted that statute. The blurbs I've read from the summaries, I have not read the full case yet, but there are now limitations on non-emergency agenda amendments. I'm not getting you a full breakdown of that by the workshop. I just want to let you know now that it's a pretty hot item, and it just happened November 8th.
And my brief perusal of that case, essentially, we, in my opinion, need to have as many items on the agenda as possible. If we don't cover them, we don't. Not putting things there, not putting the agenda on our website is just a problem. It's not a, we don't have the staff to do it. It's not an option. So what Mr. Orlando's saying is entirely correct, but this is all an effort, again, to be transparent, to get the public to know. And what is wrong with that concept?
I have nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. All right, Rich, anything Public Works? All right,
We did receive the no solicitation signs. Those were installed. The brake retarder signs were installed. One has to be moved. Mr. Steves had told us about that just today, so we will move that tomorrow. Other than that, that's all I got.
Why does it need moved?
It's, I believe, like 300 yards up from where the previous one was. We weren't aware of a breakaway post marker in the ground that was there prior, and I guess that's where the whole entire sign was. So we were going off of our odometer, which was 9/10 of a mile. It's like 300 yards, something like that.
Now, folks, again, what we're saying here is we have ordinances. Ordinances that old people, or anybody who sleeps at those hours don't like those Jake breaks. And the chief, previous chief, told me, we don't hear those. And I said, here, you can hear them. We don't have the manpower to do that. Now, a significant part of our budget is the police. I'm okay with that, but they can only do so much. So if we're not enforcing the ordinances that we have on the books, again, why do we want to get into a whole bunch of new things? Let's straighten and get our ship in order. The signs were going for, they weren't going for weeks. We just don't have, in my opinion, our priorities the way they should be.
Rich, any Parks and Rec?
The only thing I had to discuss on Parks and Rec is the water issue. As everyone's aware, this building was placed under a boil water advisory, along with the facility next door to this, which is the fields and the concession stand. In the meantime, the concession stand has been closed down, and the water shut off to that facility. And we also contacted Cole Brothers. Cole Brothers has come out. They checked with us last week. They looked at the system. It was discovered that very likely the UV light system was in failure. So they have replaced that for us. That was done yesterday. UV light is operational. Chief and I had a conversation. We are going through the procedure of flushing the lines. Cole Brothers is also going to be the operator on this, so they're going to help us clear the process with DEP because that has to be done appropriately. They'll help us check that a couple of times. If that doesn't resolve the problem, we'll probably use chlorine to shock the system, but we believe the UV light will probably fix that, and then we'll have that tested once again, and at that point in time, if it clears the test, we'll be back in operation here in the building.
And Richard, you recall that we want to get something out to all the facilities, all the organizations using our facilities recurring, that we want to discuss that.
Yes, sir. So they're going to attend the February meeting. My understanding is they come then, that's when they fill out all of their paperwork to do so. That will actually bring everybody together at one time. And what they will then do is they'll also coordinate their calendars so that.
Now, my concern, Richard, though, is that seems to imply that we're going to give them the use of the facilities again, and that's not what I want. I want other people to say, hey, we have facilities here, you've had it for 5 years, now maybe somebody else. In other words, I don't want a February here. That's what happened, well, maybe the last decade. And if you people want to see waste, you should see the money that was spent rehabbing that place. You should see the filth. And I prefer not to have that again. And I prefer to open it up to as many people and as many groups that we can.
Well, if you advertise on the website and give a cutoff, I mean, you can't go out there and drag these people in.
Absolutely.
So, and you have to give them a cut, you have to have a cutoff where you're gonna assign this, so everybody can plan where they're gonna play.
Absolutely.
So, if we have it on the website, to turn in your paperwork, and we have it scheduled, you say for February?
I believe it's February.
Can we put on the website how that the facility is available to new people?
Well, it's
Can we
available,
make it-
and
can we make an
anybody wants to put their
advertisement?
name in. And we've had new groups come in this year. So,
Jeff,
You know, the question-
have you verified that we're not charging township residents? Isn't your son in baseball, or isn't your family?
He's
Past that?
Yeah, he's in high school now, so he doesn't play the rec.
I had reports that we were charging inadvertently our own township people. That was 6 months ago. I don't know if that's true or not true, but it was a little
We
concerning.
had said not to, so.
Right.
I don't
I
know.
know.
well, I mean, you know, and I'm always not sure how that conversation came up, but it could be an organization from outside the township that has township people playing on it. That I don't know. And if it's an outside organization, they're gonna be charged even if they do have residents playing on it.
Anything else, Rich?
No, sir.
Anything else before executive session? If not, we go to executive session at 8:25. Legal and personnel issues.
I would anticipate perhaps action being taken after that executive session. That's just I don't know that for a fact. But we are, if you've been paying attention, we are on YouTube. You can watch and rewatch this. That's the YouTube. I'm going to leave that go during the executive session for now. So we're still broadcasting.
decent advice on that.
Chief, are you staying on?
You want me to stay?
The second
I
round.
don't think this executive session will be long, can you?
I can stay. Right.
Okay, how are you?
Sure, I was trying to remember the last time we talked.
Boys are getting worked up. One here, one here.
She's gonna be more dedicated.
I got you. Hold on.
Okay.
Less I have to do the next day. Less I have to do the next day.
That process is gonna take, you're getting into the holidays now, it's gonna be a month, you know, until we get. Just
For Mr.
hopefully he'll have.
I'm just asking why he's long, like, last year.
So just, my suggestion for you would be to just review your permits and not issue it. You know what I mean, like, tough, well, at least your permit could be ready, when, you know what I mean, in case, he's got to review, you know, changes to the drawings or whatever.
Having fun?
Oh, yeah. If it ain't fun, don't do it.
And I don't know why you wouldn't be ready for December, but at least that way, either way, when they sign that agreement, Ted has your permit ready to just sign.
You know where I live on.
Yep, yeah, right there, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he had a few.
I gotta get my lights up, I am running late
One
this
was,
year.
I don't know if you remember what I stick in
Yeah.
the field.
Yeah.
Oh, that takes me weeks.
Yeah, it looks cool though.
Well, years ago, I had 3 trees like the one I have in the field.
Yeah.
And over the years, they died. So I'm down to one big one, and I might do another. I don't know, I was thinking
Now,
about
let me ask you this.
renting a lift.
Okay.
And there's one by
I'm
my
not-
driveway,
I'm
I'd love to
not-
do that, but that sucker's 48 feet.
Oh.
I don't wanna.
Yeah, you don't wanna,
I
you don't
don't
wanna mess
wanna-
with that.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
too
I've been on top
Because-
of
because there may be- I don't-
standing on the
Again, I don't
top
handle
rod
that side,
already.
Just
there
for
might be
the-
an
Yeah, just
aggregate
for the
exemption
lights.
like
Yeah, that's a little,
Yeah,
it looks
yes,
cool.
so then my guess is you'll be back
but
here
it takes me,
for a variance
I'm
to go
sure.
over 1900.
years ago,
That's not. the
years
easiest
ago, I
thing.
used to,
And I was only in
Dude,
2000,
no.
so we were able to cut 100.
there's a lot more up by the house that
If you
nobody
cut it
sees.
tonight, I built it to, right to that 1900 square feet, you're done with it.
So that was the only
Like we
thing was
turn
that,
it
and
off.
then another response, he's like, well, we're good to
Well,
go.
you
And
get all the
then
dirt you
I
get
had
up
to
at the
get my initial
township.
application, I had to put it in.
So a lot of that
Okay.
came
Demo the house
from
after the fact.
Okay.
And I guess
the,
they missed that, and the
okay.
guy was like, oh,
Oh,
this
okay.
needs to go
Then,
from the board.
then my recommendation for you.
we took 4 foot off of
Get on
each
the
side
phone
of it
with
when we
Ted
started widening it
and
before.
Rich, the manager,
Oh,
and just let
okay.
them know, hey,
So
you
that
know,
was a lot.
we're ready to
Pretty
go,
much
so
all
you
at
are
the-
the
Well,
came
you
through
know, my
agreement,
son
you just gotta
in law.
get it prepared so that you can sign it and get it back here.
Me and Shendy,
Rich.
Oh, okay.
he's my
Rich,
son-in-law.
Okay.
Manager, we just changed
Township
manager, so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I probably did half of the shit that you
Yeah.
were complaining about.
Yes.
Not
Tim and I always have
So,
an agreement
Craft
not
Food
to
Services
agree.
and Craft
Gotcha.
Engineering as of January
Yeah.
1 of this year are one company, we're Craft Municipal.
He's gonna gut.
We used to do the zoning and code, we don't anymore, now I just handle
But,
it.
Gotcha, gotcha. You work with Jason.
Well, Jason yes, well, he works for,
But you guys would work together. so-
absolutely, you know Jason.
He actually lives in the back.
I'm working on my-
our property.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
He doesn't quit, it's not quite land, he's in the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
behind us.
Yes, I know where, I live in the township too, I live off Calico.
I got
Okay.
more than
So-
the one son.
You know, it's a
Yes.
3-story bank barn over
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
It's the one serving on the board,
Yeah, I'm working on it.
which is to
I'll
help
probably
him build
quit
his
the
house
day
that he
it's
wants to make.
finished.
Well,
Don't say that, that would,
I don't know
Yeah.
about that, he's, you know, but that's the board that
But, yeah,
reviews subdivision.
Years
and-
ago, there was
Gotcha.
3 trees
Like,
as
what
big
is-
as the one out in
What
the
is the
field, and I
township's goal as
that I
far as, are they looking to get
Yeah.
into new
And
design?
one by the house,
Developments?
I have about 60 balls,
I see there's still
about like
some
that
large
size, like
tracts
Really?
of land that are
yeah,
still
put
owned
on
by
the, yeah, put on the tree.
companies.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't even know if
My-
they
there's my-
necessarily have.
my three.
Oh,
That's Wynn's oldest,
Okay,
his second, and that's his niece.
okay.
So that's up at my, up at our place.
Nice.
Yeah,
Always.
that was last year.
I work,
Oh,
we
now-
live in South
Yeah,
Lancaster
it's a
City,
good
and
crew.
East Lancaster Township is one of the
There's
most
Wynn
townships that we're
is-
third district there. And if you think more housing,
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
more
Yeah.
industrial,
They do some
is
funny
going
things.
to
Yeah.
lower taxes you are.
Oh, my wife
It doesn't
doesn't
work.
work for one house for 40 years.
Yeah, I remember Ron had said something about
Yeah,
that.
well, she had a colostomy. I mean, she's been in and out of the hospital since 21. Yeah.
In the county, it's like for a rural township.
We have a hospital bed down there, that's my wife.
It's a big struggle.
We had the visiting nurse
We
come
would prefer not to
yesterday
have
and she'll be,
dedicated, you know what I mean, like new developments with dedicated streets that we have to take over, so.
but,
So
Yeah,
I think from their position.
I've been working doing,
I think,
I was when I asked about the dirt that's piled
Yeah,
up.
because I saw like, I guess there's a new one.
Is that
going,
available
in works,
or-
in the works on
I'd have
Furnace
to
Road.
ask the,
Yeah,
I'd have to ask.
yeah, that's.
Just let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm,
Oh, for how much
That's
water
been in the
well,
works
see what
for
I'm
many,
doing
many,
is,
many
you know
years.
where I have my
But yes,
driveway
it's
on the low
finally
side,
getting
Yeah.
to the end of
and I
development.
have that silk
And
fence
I
in.
got some of
Yeah.
this new
Well, I'm
water
trying to fill that up a little
The thing
more.
that I like about
And
Township
just
that I
break
see
it
a
out and
quicker
see.
go
Yeah.
of us is
Yeah.
drive through it.
I'll ask
It's
the,
not like the
yeah,
developments
I'll
that
ask
we're
the-
used to.
Yeah, that's
Like
right.
it's 5 acre lots. and it's-
I just don't wanna do anything with
Yeah,
that.
I know, but,
Yeah, I know, you were in that seat.
yeah, well, he said it was all right.
They're under mandates.
Yeah.
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 I know the drill.
Yeah.
I was in that seat for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I've been on the planning commission for almost, for 45 years.
Oh, goodness,
Yeah.
longer than I've been alive.
Yeah, well, I was,
So no,
I was a
So
vice
they're not
president of the
aggressive.
phone company in Birchburg.
Is there a new one
Okay.
going on Route 10
And
there? I saw they took
my-
like a lot of trees out just to get up against the lake.
I worked my way up. I was started in the line gang and I ended up as the senior VP.
Nice.
But during my transitions, I was in charge of outside plant as one of my divisions.
Okay.
And I went on the planning commission, so I knew ahead of time what was coming in, so we could tie that into my capital budget.
That makes sense.
So, yeah, I've been,
Pretty serious discussion about.
too many things.
Yeah,
I'm,
It's Robeson.
I'm 45 years a Lions Club member. I'm a Rotary member. I belong to the Historic Preservation Trust of Berks County.
Yeah, but
And I'm an
Maybe that's
ex-board
why they
member
put it
of
as
Joanna Furnace.
because
I
there
used
was
to
there's a lot of irons in fire.
But I had to pull a lot of them out with my wife,
Wow.
because she doesn't drive
So all the new
anymore, I
market
gotta have the
properties,
one car, so.
It's a
If
large
I'm not
Yeah.
home, she's, yeah, well, she had a colostomy, and she had it for almost a year and a half, and just had it reversed.
Sure.
So
Both sides of Furnace Road there.
Yep, Furnace Road, 2 sides of 23,
Still
line,
have
so we got
to-
176.
Yeah, just mention the rich. I mean,
Yeah.
I just wanna,
I
what I did was I tore the old wall out,
Okay.
and I doubled the base, and I put a new wall up in front of that before I did my driveway. What I'm trying to do is get the dirt up past the double wall, so you only see the
The
new
way I
one.
understand it was a
But I'm gonna
recreational
rake it
property
out and seed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, yeah, I'll say something to
Yeah,
him.
okay.
And a dead end street just off.
Yeah, like I said,
I can't remember
I
the
would
name.
have no problem, there's plenty,
Yeah,
plenty of dirt up there.
Yeah, but the wrong person sees it, and they go nuts.
Yeah.
You know how that works.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, I do.
yes,
Oh,
but,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
which ones are in here?
I've had,
A lot of people get silly girls when they say
yeah, believe it or not, I've been Santa Claus, I ring the
Oh,
bell,
yeah?
I ring the bell, I ring,
Sure.
here's the tree in the house.
Oh, nice.
That was last Christmas.
I have a hard time picturing
And
those.
this is,
A lot of people do.
Yeah. Now, he was great to work with,
this is my place last Christmas.
that house, so the
Yeah,
house there,
nice.
if you look at it, was only built in 2012.
Okay.
Built without a permit.
Darth Vader.
Whoever built it got caught.
Yeah.
But, and
Yeah, I put out almost 10,000
Have you ever been
lights
in
into
there?
one of the fields,
very steep.
but I had 3 that
I
saw.
just
No way.
This is
I'm
the
not sure
driveway
which
that
house
goes,
and one
this
after
driveway
that.
goes straight up to the furnace, right?
But we're down to
Where's
about
your
one in the
driveway
field.
going?
Weaver, if you take Weaver Road off of Furnace,
Yep.
you go
Yeah,
past the
but
one,
it
past the
takes
horse
me,
barn, that's the first road.
Down by the road, you see what I
Couple
do.
hundred
Yeah,
feet,
yeah.
maybe 1,000 feet off of Furnace Road.
There's,
If you come off of First
yeah.
Road, back
I
right
ring
on
the
Weaver,
bell for the
just go
salvation.
up over there, we'll do on the right.
Okay, maybe it's the same property.
A lot of stuff.
There's 2 ways.
Yeah, and I'll be
You know, another
78
property that,
in less than a month.
John?
That keeps you busy.
We don't have a lot of road
Keeps you out of
frontage, we only
trouble.
have 50 feet of road frontage and then
No.
sort of
No.
right away,
No.
and that property's all the way back on the road.
Okay.
Do you
Oh,
have
here's down my basement.
mostly in the area?
3 granddaughters all play
Yeah,
the
so we
piano.
back
Oh,
up
nice.
to Birdsboro watershed property.
Cool.
Okay.
So we can walk right out there.
Yeah,
But,
but I had trouble last year.
now my son is
With
15,
my-
so that's all he wants to do. is-
That's awesome.
I wish I enjoyed
Different
different
things.
Oh, really?
Okay.
You don't enjoy
Roads
them?
on
Well,
shingles.
I'm out of meetings and,
Yeah.
you know, and then we get up at
Here,
3:30 in the morning.
That the one tree in the field,
Yeah, yeah, sure.
last year,
Yep.
I had some
I
fingers
love it.
break.
Okay.
It's always been a
Because
dream of mine.
that's
to
so
have
windy.
it's 69
Yeah,
acres
that's
there,
me
so-
looking
Looking
down
down.
from the top of the ladder,
I already have like an acre of food plot and I want to.
That's fun.
that's what broke.
Okay.
So I had to fix that last year, and I doubled the pipes inside, and took care of it.
First day
Oh,
archery.
Yeah.
I
had
made,
a
yeah,
buck.
that's me up
That's my
in it.
camera. One video.
That's the light.
With an hair sticking out of his back.
I love doing
Yeah, that's cool.
I trimmed up the,
That's it.
I trimmed,
So you're saying there's a lot of hunters in the small lots?
I'm saying that they might just make sure they're not.
I just cleaned up the
Oh, yeah,
rail
there's tree stands on
fences.
the
I
property.
got,
We found
I
that.
gotta rebuild 2
Yo.
more.
Nice.
No, it's okay. I mean,
Full rail fences done.
there's lots there.
Because I don't know how much John.
Yeah, we do family.
Well, it's going to change.
And
because
that's
I'm
part of
putting-
the family. So
Yeah.
that would,
Yeah.
putting
She's-
a riding,
she's a-
my daughters have horses.
Okay.
Cool.
So I promised them
Here's
a
one of my
riding trail on the perimeter.
families,
So we're gonna have a
6
trail
generations
over-
back.
Sure.
That's the kind farmstead over and over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what I would do. I would
Okay.
make
He's
contact
my-
with Ted and let him know what
I'm
happened
the
here.
first one.
The 6th
And just that way
generation
you can,
from
you know what I
that
mean,
farm.
and if you get.
And that's in the preservation trust, and I'm on the property committee for that building,
Just say, hey,
Okay.
for that property.
disagreement, just.
And I just had a meeting on it last night,
Because
yeah.
everything here works on a 30-day
Yeah.
cycle, so.
She's been
Yeah.
through a
If you
lot.
miss one, it puts you out.
That's the concern. is-
Here's something I made.
Timothy is a good-
The one tree that came down, I took all the pipes and they wanted a sign made up. So
What's he
I
do?
made this thing up.
He's in a-
These T's screw in. They're water plugs on both sides and I dammed the middle. So on a rainy day, you can fill these
It's all
with
good.
water.
Okay, so going
And this thing just
I will say
turns.
this, like, anytime I
So
get
to get in the
into an area
car,
and you see the Board of Fire,
This
and
is
they straight up
permanently
and down
fixed
go,
to
yes,
the yellow,
It doesn't really-
and these 2 unscrew.
Right, no, absolutely.
So,
Yeah, that's pretty nifty.
So I'm an old engineer from way back.
That's cool.
Hey, thanks for your time.
All right, take care.
Hey,
Have a good holiday.
yeah, well,
You
I'll
too.
be down at the Winds,
Okay.
yeah, cause we're bringing ham and filling and,
All right.
and beer.
Well, we have house guests showing up tomorrow night, which I'm crazy about. And, I'm gonna smoke a turkey and then we're in the car and we go to eat.
Hey, I told your kid, cause he messaged me on Instagram, cause he follows me. He was asking me a whole bunch of stuff about deer hunting and
He wants
stuff.
to go hunting,
Yeah, and I told him, I said, "Well, I'll take you. I said, we'll go.
All right, I'll drop them off.
Yeah. So let me know.
Well, Jeff's boy got a deer in the back of my place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I gave him the old tractor, the old mower
Yeah.
and a cart to go up and get it,
Fetch it up.
so I didn't have to
Yeah.
drag it out.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I told him, so,
alright.
well, if he wants to hunt.
Yeah. My wife wants to come down. She got this device in order too. Whatever.
Yeah, we know.
Well, hey, have a good night.
Yes, alright.
Alright.
You guys need me to stick around? Alright.
You're doing great. That's the important part.
Yeah, I just nipped a line on my shoulder, my rotator sucks is through.
Alright, we'll come back in session at 8:41.
A motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'd like a motion to adjourn at 8:42.
I'll make that motion.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Alright, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody's here.
All right, I can. Yeah, well, I didn't see it.
Oh, yeah, let's see, yes, yes.
I thought it was funny.
It was last time.
Oh, hey, Tim.
We can handle the checks, don't worry.
I'm waiting for checks.
You got these?
Huh?
Guess I'll sign.
Oh.
Like the red ones.